I want to welcome everyone to another episode of Behind the Shades. And I can't say she's my new best friend, but I definitely will say that she's going to be my best friend, Laura, with us here. So, Laura, why don't you tell everyone who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm originally from the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and that's such a hard question to answer. I mean, in what regard, in what parameter? Um, I grew up in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and I went to college at Illinois State. I started there, and I earned my bachelor's degree in sociology. So, kind of I would say a normal from the outside viewpoint, normal childhood. Inside the home, it was not great. Um, I'll come back to that. So continued on with Illinois State. I worked on a master's and finished it in sociology as well from Illinois State. And then I thought, well, okay, this is working out pretty well. So I continued on, went to Purdue, and I earned my doctorate in child development and family studies. And that was working out pretty well and I met someone online, veggiedate.com. Yes, veggiedate.com. I met a gentleman who's in the military, and he was in Bosnia at the time, working towards the peacekeeping effort there. This was back in, I won't date myself. um, we dated from a distance. He was stationed in Fort Bragg, redeployed back to Fort Bragg in North Carolina. And we got married and moved over to Germany. And I lived there for 8 years. While I was finishing up my dissertation, in my last year there, I knew I couldn't write for 8 hours a day. So I decided to start a second master's before I finished my doctorate. So I finished a second master's. I finished my doctorate while I was finishing up my second master's in counseling and personal services. So I lived for 8 years, which was phenomenal. I would not give it up for anything. It was a beautiful time. The opportunity was nothing that I could ever ask for, and it was also the worst time of my life. So had a son, moved back to the States in 2009, and long story short, things spiraled out of control pretty bad. I ended up homeless about 4 years ago. I'm going on 5 years now, and it was the darkest, deepest, worst time of my life. And today it's not that way at all. Today is heavenly. It's a beautiful thing to know and understand how dark and deep it can go, and how wonderful it is to find the light and be able to breathe. Really take in a deep, deep breath and feel okay in my skin, because it wasn't like that for a very long time, probably for about 20 years.
I know you mentioned to me, Laura, that you had a difficult childhood, right? And I know the conversations you and I have had, it seems there was some competition, maybe, or some lack of attention also when you were growing up. And I know that you felt that you wanted to obtain that in different ways. And I'll let you touch on that as well. But I find it interesting that it seems like what you've taken in school kind of double back to that, right? You have the family studies, you have the childhood, right? Explain your childhood, and did your education relate back to that childhood that you shared with me?
I think you just encapsulated everything that is in my experience, for sure. My childhood was interesting. My parents, I was on welfare. My parents, our family, I experienced welfare and food stamps growing up. I thought we were well off. I was really wasn't for want in regard to, I had everything. I wasn't hungry. I wasn't, I had shelter. At the same time, by the time my parents divorced, I think I was maybe 4. It was really tough. Three, I can remember 3 instances, maybe 4, of my first memories, and my mom can validate that they're accurate. I remember colors of carpeting and being picked up by the police at a friend's house, my sister's friend's house, or walking home alone, and just being in timeouts, just bizarre things. And then when we moved, it got pretty tough. I'm the youngest of four. And so my sister's 3 years older than me. My next sibling is 4 years older than me and my brother. And then I have another brother who's 7 years older than me. And quite confused as a child, as a young girl. There were instances in which my brother had taken initiative to place his hands on me, through lack of a better description. And for a long time, I didn't really know what to make of it. I know the age at which it happened primarily because when he was 13, he went to go live with my father. And the rest of us were living with my mom and my stepdad. So I know that it was a very condensed period of time. And I kind of think that I don't know that I blocked things out. I don't remember a lot of my childhood for some reason, but certain things that I do remember are very intense. I remember what I was told before my brother went to go live with my father that my other two siblings, the middle two, they viciously bullied my oldest brother, and because he was kind of like the nerdy one, and so when he left, I got the brunt of it. And my sister, she was consistently, I was the bubbly one, I was the happy one, and I was the one who made nice. I was the pleaser. And so my sister was the pretty one consistently growing up. So I was pretty much called, I was the redheaded stepchild. Fat and ugly for about 15 years. My sister growing up, she was the prom queen, the homecoming queen, voted most popular in high school, 3 years older than me. I started high school. She's a senior, I'm a freshman. And it pretty much stuck with me for a long time. And I certainly do not blame my siblings for what, for at any, because as children, we don't know. Being bullied, I understand now in hindsight what bullying means. It's essentially power. I mean, any type of discrimination, it's power. And being bullied, I felt like I had none. So I became a bully when I was in grammar school. Thankfully, I was able to make amends. Years later, I found the girls on Facebook and they even said to me, "What are you talking about?" They didn't even know it, but my intent was that I wanted to hurt because I was hurting so much inside. And being able to make those amends, regardless, I mean, if regardless of what they had said, how they felt, it was important for me to do that. So growing up as a teenager, by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I was the only child at home. And I remember vividly my bedroom, I have pictures actually. My bedroom was in the basement. It was a finished basement. And I remember so clearly sitting on my bed in my bedroom, just sobbing at night. Just so lonely. And just sobbing and not knowing how to make sense of how I felt so low and why I felt so alone and isolated. I never wanted to commit suicide. I thought about it. I mean, I thought about it. However, I didn't entertain the thoughts. So I used other means to sex, drugs, means to placate or numb myself as a teenager. Very promiscuous, a lot of drugs and alcohol. And the interesting thing about it is that my family has a strong history of alcoholism. And so my parents, they didn't drink. I remember coming home and I was the quote unquote the good one. I was even in high school, I wasn't the smart one, so to speak. I didn't get in trouble because I didn't get found out. Literally, if you're late for a curfew, you better call. You better be on fire or there has to be blood. Because you better be walking in that door not a minute late unless you call. And so, I was pretty much on that path that I think one time in high school, I got one Saturday. I never got a detention. Grades were fine, not stellar yet. And I would walk in the house and my parents would be in front of the TV and we'd walk in the front door You go past the living room. I'd walk past the family room. My parents were sitting there in their chairs, respective chairs, and I'd go right to the door down to the basement. How was your night? Good. Nothing. They never noticed. And at the time, I was like, yeah, they didn't notice. And at the time now, I'm like, well, why didn't they notice? And that really came to fruition, how poignant that was, because later what happened with my brother, I'll get to that. Why didn't they notice? Do you see me? And if you don't see me, why aren't you around? And if you do see me, why don't you say anything? So by the time I got to high school or to college, I purposely went to a different college than my siblings. They all went to another university in another completely opposite. I live in Illinois. They went to Southern. I went to Illinois State. And I remember the first college party I went to. Oh, you're so and so's little sister. What? I felt so small. I mean, I felt like once again, I'm just under her shadow. And that's when I did the whole Thursday, Friday, Saturday, party and after hours, and that started to dwindle by I'd say by second semester, third semester, it started to decrease in number of parties, not just frequency, but also duration. So I'd go from like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, party, then after hours, and then Friday, Saturday, and then Saturday, and then not just party and then after hours, it would just be one, and then it was nothing. I started to get seriously addicted to school. I mean, I was good at it. And that's the way I could finally be seen in my family. This is the way I stood out. So graduating with honors and a scholarship, staying at Illinois State for my master's, assistantship, which is like a scholarship, my tuition's paid. And then, well, what else am I going to do? And there's nothing less than a 4.0. They just don't, it's just not going to happen because it's how I'm recognized. So I wasn't addicted to alcohol yet. I wasn't addicted to food yet. I was addicted to school because I was good at it. And it's another addiction. I wanted to be seen. I remember when I was taking a statistics class and I earned a 98. And I walked in the professor's office hours and I said, what did I do wrong? He said, Laura, you got a 98, give it up. It wasn't good enough. And, throughout that time I was dating, I'm a serial monogamist, so I had long-term relationships, and I have a commitment issue. I just don't give up. That's my commitment issue. So I'm dedicated to school. I don't give up. Okay. I know friends. I give myself, by this time I'm at Purdue, and I'm working on my doctorate because there's nowhere else to go. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Oh, I'll just stay in school. I'm delaying my adolescence because I'm afraid to grow up. I'll just stay in school. Wow. Thinking at that time that that's all I knew what to do. And so my first semester at Purdue was so intense. I think I lost maybe 20, 30 pounds because there was so much. There was no way I could ever, I had to have some control, essentially. And so food was my control. Not feeling as if I had any power. And I did have power over one thing. And that was it. That's what.
Let me ask
So
you. Let me ask you a question. As you mentioned that, I'm going to ask you a question. Then I have a follow up on it right after. When it came to school, were your other siblings, were they able to perform as well as you in school?
no, I don't
Eh,
know if they, I don't know if they could have. I don't know if they wanted to. Um,
mm,
that they, my sister was the pretty one, the popular one. My other brother was the fun one, and my other brother, the oldest brother, he was kind of lost a little bit. So it wasn't their thing, and that's the one thing. I was either the happy one and the smart one. So
Perfect. And I'll
yeah,
tell you why. Yeah, and I'll tell you why I asked that. Because that's what I suspected. Because there was, I was actually, I thought of you when I was telling the story to someone else a couple of days ago, and I was hoping, well, not hoping because it's kind of good or bad depending on how you look at it, right? But I was banking you to answer that way, and I'll tell you why now. There's someone a couple of years ago I was friends with, and She's an entrepreneur and she has four children, two by one father, two by another. Now, it's two boys, two girls, similar to your situation, right? So that's why it reminded me of this of the story. So there is one child, the second youngest, I believe, or the youngest. She did really well in school. The other three, not as well as her. To your point, maybe they couldn't, maybe they didn't know how, or whatever the case, right? They had other things going on for themselves. The problem with that child, because I came into to know the mother through a friendship and then ultimately meet her kids and things like that, is the mother couldn't relate to that child. Because the mother herself wasn't studious. The mother herself didn't perform well. So you have the parents not able to relate to the child, and you have the other three siblings unable to relate to the child on that level because this child is standing out in their own way because they want the parents' affection. And this is how they're able to do it because, like you, they're excelling at something that they're really good at. So I'd speak to her about this child, about the daughter, and she would say, I can't relate to her. She does well in school, and I know it's a good thing, but I don't feel that overwhelming joy that I feel that when the daughter performs well in dance, where the sons perform well in basketball or something else, right? And I would speak to the little girl and I would tell her that two things are going to happen. One of two things are going to happen. You're either going to continue to stay in school, excel, and stay in school, like you mentioned, to prolong you entering whatever it is you think is out there for you, and you're going to do really well, and you're going to leave your family behind because you won't be able to, because the more you excel, the less you're going to be able to relate to them. Or the other course of action, you're going to start to sabotage yourself in a way that's going to be noticeable, and at least you're going to get the attention from those you're growing up with. Is that something that you kind of went through?
Somewhat. My parents, none of my, well, two biological, two step parents. None of my, three of my parents did not go to college. My mother wanted to desperately, and four children by the time she's 26 and divorced by that time, she just didn't have an opportunity to. She had to go to work. My stepmother, she had a master's degree. That's after the fact. I do know in my heart that my mother lived vicariously through her children. I have a picture actually here that was taken after she took great pride that all four of her children graduated from college. So, okay, well then we're all equal. I got to go farther. And it wasn't just that at the time. I really didn't think about it at the time. And honestly, I don't think that was it. It's just in hindsight that may have been part of it. I really think that I was good at it. And I mean, I felt so small. I mean, I have a picture here of myself at 3 and my son at 3, and so innocent. Thank you. So innocent and pure and untouched. There's no tarnish. So how do I cope and deal with these feelings of feeling inadequate and invisible? And my family was, well, you can have your mood. You're going to go have it in your bedroom. You're not going to take it out on us. Can I have it out here but not take it out on anybody? No. Do I have to be happy all the time? Do I have to make it seem like everything's okay? How do I cope? The only way I know how to cope is to perform. And does anyone see that I'm hurting? And the only way I can get attention is if I stand out, and I can't stand out by being in a quote unquote bad mood, because there are no bad feelings. They're feelings. They're not fact. They'll pass. I didn't know that at the time. I remember as a child, I told my stepmother, I think I was 8, that I told her, sometimes I feel so deeply it scares me. And I didn't know at the time that that's okay, that I will survive. It's who's going to sit there with me and say, this will pass. You're not going to die. I didn't know any different.
Did you want someone to sit there with you? Like, did you need someone did you need someone with you at that point?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I remember, Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I remember telling my mom, Joe's pulling my hair. He's hurting me. I said, Jenny, she's calling me fat and ugly, and she's saying these things. Well, I wasn't there. I can't do anything about it. Okay. How do I make sense of that? Um, I wanted an advocate. Interestingly enough, when I was in Germany, one of the best jobs I ever had was a family advocacy manager for all of Europe, for all of Europe.
How was that? Were you able to use your personal experience to motivate you through that?
To a certain extent. Now, fast forward 20 years. The last 4 years when I was in Germany, this was from '05 to '09. I was hired as a family advocacy program manager, which means that my job was to oversee 22 Army installations overseeing 5 countries. So my job was at the headquarters for all of Europe. So, and my point of contact for my quote unquote bosses were at the Pentagon. So my job was to ensure that the family advocacy program, which was in place in 22 individual Army garrisons, which are like Army towns, cities, where military are positioned. So family advocacy program, it helps to create education and awareness and prevention of domestic violence, child abuse, sexual assault, and provide support for new parents. In regard to like shaken baby syndrome, I was a first time mother. I never told to change the diaper when I had my son. I didn't know what the heck to do. And I'm supposed to be managing the continent. Give me a break. So my clients were the supervisors at each one of the garrisons. So did not have face-to-face hands-on contact with the actual individuals for whom we served. My job was to supervise the managers. So a lot of accreditation, a lot of briefings to higher level officers, generals and colonels and such. So a lot of paperwork. Even then, it was quite fulfilling because it was recognition, and on my faces, I'm doing presentations and doing briefings, and I was able to solidify that position primarily because of my education. And I asked the woman who vetted me, I said, why would you want to hire someone who's so young? And she said, because you got that education. I know you're a go-getter. Okay, that got me in. That got me in. So, I mean, who goes to college for 12 years has 4 degrees? Come on. What's the matter
Well,
with me?
someone that's dedicated. I must have
Who's
spent
committed? Who's committed this way?
committed. But you know what? Look at it like this. Has there ever been a situation where you committed to something that you didn't do well in?
Yeah, relationships.
Why do you think that is?
Because they never say die. I'm gonna make it work. It's gonna work. Did it really benefit me so much that yeah, sure, I got 4 degrees. So I almost died. I was about 5 pounds from dying. I almost drank myself to
Yeah.
death.
Yeah,
Who
and
goes
we're
to
good and we're gonna talk about it. But look at it like this. Relationships, because you know what? I would say that some people could say that maybe I don't have the best track record when it comes to relationship or someone else or my friends or whatever the case is. But look at it like this. You did anytime you commit to something, you do well except relationship. The only difference that I see is because it takes you and someone else when it comes to the relationship. When it's you in a book, it's just you. It's 100% you. When it's you and providing something for your son, it's you. You can't say, I'm going to do 50% of it. Someone else is going to be 50% of it. Granted, son's a little bit different because it takes a father to create one. But when you committed to something, you've been able to do it yourself. But relationship is always harder because it takes 2 people. No relationship can be good when it's only one person.
Well, it's so interesting that you say that because I don't have custody of my son right now.
He's with dad?
Mhm. Because my ex-husband stood up when I couldn't. It does take a father. And interestingly enough, I wrote my doctoral dissertation on at-home dads. What? How interesting how it all comes back circle. I'm teaching marriage and family relationships, teaching, not necessarily implementing people how to communicate. And yes, I agree with you. It's like sex. You're only as good as your last partner. It takes 2 people. It takes communication.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, now I just fast forwarded a little bit. So, okay, I completely agree with you. And it's interesting because when we're talking with people, I mean, let me ask you this something. Do you think that, do you think that your partner can read your mind? I mean, if
Yes.
you want to, oh, okay. So,
Yes.
okay, when, how about gifts? Like, oh, you know what to get me. Do you think your partner
Yes.
knows?
I think I'll backtrack. I think you know what type of gift to get. You don't know specifically which gift, right? Look at it like this. You and I have known each other for what, a week, 2 weeks?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
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 And we're intuitive about each other. Would you
Mhm.
agree?
Mhm.
Okay.
Definitely.
So you can make an argument that we can read each other's mind.
Yeah.
And there's distance between us, and we don't have enough history between the two of us. I can ask a question and predict how you're going to answer. You can ask me a question, and I'm pretty sure you can do the same.
What kind of gift do you think I want right now?
I don't know you well enough.
I am literally, I will bring you to the store, bring you to the aisle, place the towels in your hand, say, this is the fabric, this is the color, or bring you to the website and say, this is what I want.
If we've known
Oh,
each other for, let's say, 6 months to a year, I'm pretty
mhm.
sure I can guess with some accuracy to what kind of gift you want.
I would think that in the general realm, for sure.
Yeah. So, but how would I come to that if I couldn't read your mind through experience?
You can't read my mind. You can't, for example, give two people who start a relationship. Oh, he can read my mind. He can finish my sentences for me. 10
No,
years
that's
down,
ridiculous. That's
10
ridiculous.
years down the road, will you stop interrupting me? 10 years down the road, will you stop interrupting me? It's oh, he can read my mind. He knows every single thing that I'm thinking. He can finish my sentences. Will you stop interrupting me? It's I would rather, for example, when it comes to relationships, I would rather have not a rose, a single flower, even a dandelion on a daily basis and be treated well over the duration of a relationship rather than have dozen roses, a limo, just an amazing Valentine's Day because it's consistency. And that's what my mom gave to me, my ex-husband. When I met him, I was training for my first marathon because it wasn't enough just to go to school. I had to run marathons too. And I had to teach classes and I had to plan a wedding at the same time. And I had to be writing a dissertation at the same time because there's no one thing, it's doing everything. And he gave me the best compliment I ever got in my life. He said, talking to you is like putting on a comfortable pair of running shoes. And for a runner, I don't run anymore. For a runner, that's everything. And I remember because the previous relationships I had two long-term relationships. One was 4 years, one was 5 years, and I met him. It was just up and down, bonfire, then nothing, and then just a bonfire, and then just ash. And it was like he was like an ever burning flame. Now later on, I don't work that way. I'm all energizer. He's all, sit back and just watch. I'm not like, let's go. I'm the motivator. I'm the connector. I'm the energizer bunny. Because I haven't displayed that yet on here, but I don't do coffee because you don't want to see this on coffee. You don't want to see that. In fact, I usually get people to say, calm down. And that pisses me off because I don't want to calm down. I want to live life. Anyway, I did a little version there. That just that consistency rather than I don't know what I'm going to get. And eventually I turned into that. He was the consistent one. I was there in terms of relationship, like showing up every day, but you never know what we're going to get. I'm either addicted to something or not. I'm either working for a figure competition or not. I'm either running marathons or not. And never sit still. Heaven forbid I could sit still. We talked about this a little bit earlier. What you said reminded me. To sit with my thoughts? No way. Hey, no way. There's no way. Because if I sit with this, that's not a safe place to be ever. And I'm a clinician. I'm a practitioner with mental health. What?
Did you fear your thoughts?
Oh, Jeff, I felt Jeff, big time, big time.
Why?
Because then I would start thinking, and then it would just go and go and go and go and go, and I didn't know what would happen. There was this.
Where do you think your thoughts would take you?
I would eat over it. I'd drink over it. So I had to stay busy. So I had to have every single minute filled, every single minute. When I was at Purdue, I gave myself 1 hour a week to go to the laundromat to read like People magazine or something. Every other minute was full. Um, study, study, study. I mean, it was just like, it was an absurd, it was the amount of work was none like anything I've ever experienced after that or before. And that kind of set the tone. And I was good at it. Yeah, I was good at it. And I love teaching. Oh my God. I love teaching. I wasn't good at first. And then, I mean, I can say that honestly, I was a good teacher. I mean, that's the thing. I didn't like teaching. I don't like teaching. I like facilitating. I like a dialogue. Like, I don't know if your people because I'm all like, I was like, come on, let's go. I'm walking into a human sexuality class teaching 300 undergraduates, right? And the door's up top here, and the auditorium goes down. So I'm like right there in the bottom. I'm walking in with a boombox with Madonna playing Human Nature, human sex erotic. Who walks in? What? The students are like, who is this? And yeah, I'm up in there. We're doing exercises and stuff, facilitating just groups. And I loved it because I would look in their eyes and be like, tell me how this, look, not just wrote, not Charlie Brown's teacher. I really wanted to know how it influenced them and how I would give comments this one time, like this one time in band camp. No.
Actually, you do have the red hair, so
Yeah,
you
right.
yeah.
I was a little subdued there, but now, see, I'm now starting to I'm feeling the passion. I loved teaching, and the feedback that I got, see, that's another addiction. The feedback that I got when I started to really, the first time that I taught my first class, I walked down the stairs, I thought I was going to hurl and I thought I was going to fall down. I was so nervous. And I talked to my advisor the next day and I said, why? And she said, because you care. Okay. And that first year, I was terrible. Oh, I got the feedback that I wasn't as effective as I could have been. How about I phrase that differently? And then I started to listen and I started to really just hear what they wanted. The students didn't want to be lectured to. And it's the same throughout my whole life. People, do you really want to be lectured to? No. I mean, it's like what Toni Morrison says, growing up. And this is one of my most important things that resonated with me throughout my whole life. It's with the students, it's with children, it's with you, it's with me, it's with everyone. Your children, you're worried about how they look and you're tying their shoes and you're putting their jacket on. You want to make sure they look right and right. They don't care about what they look like. When they walk into your room, they want to see your eyes light up. That's it. And that's what I wanted growing up. And for a long time, I always wondered, like with my brother, did you know? And if you didn't know, why weren't you there? And if you did know, why didn't you do anything? The networking that I do, I'd like to make rent. I'd like to get paid. I'm not. And at the same time, it doesn't matter. My purpose is to serve. I'm not a servant. And I won't be treated as such. I know my boundaries such that it's easier for me to say what's not okay than to say what is okay. What's not okay is I will not be treated like a servant. And why would I do that to anyone else? And when I see the light, when I see your light, the only way I know how to be, and the only thing I know how to do, and the way as a human being, how I am, is to then I want to share what I have been privy and honored to witness, and give it. You can't hoard light. I mean, who hoards light? So why would I hold that? Why would I not allow you to be seen? Why would I not allow someone else's light to shine? And I wanted that for so long, like growing up, and then living in Germany for that long time, for 8 years, which I would do it again in a moment. And my husband, then he was deployed 2 different times to Iraq, each time a year. It was my time, my little eating disorder, which actually devoured me. It devoured me.
How bad was it?
I was about
And
5 pounds from death. And when I came back to the States, when I was in Germany, that's the thing. I am an empowerment coach for high achieving academic women who experience imposter syndrome and the achiever's curse. Nobody
can
knew.
you can you explain both of those? Because I've heard that I've heard that actually quite a bit this year, and to be very honest with you, Laura, it's the first time I've heard about it in my life was imposter syndrome. So
Mhm.
explain both for those who don't know what it is.
Imposter syndrome, it was coined in the 70s, and most of the research that was done primarily was on women. And although 70% of all professionals experience it, male or female, I think that men have a much more difficult time. This is from my own personal belief. There's no research to document this. I'm an academic, so I refer to the research based. I have no documentation to support that. It's just culturally, my sense is that the way men are enculturated or socialized is to be more stand up in terms of professional. There's certain scripts, certain gender scripts, and certain gender norms. And for women to say, "Oh, I feel like an imposter," I think that's more "quote unquote" socially acceptable to coin. So imposter syndrome, essentially, one feels like a fraud. When am I going to be found out? I don't deserve this. I didn't earn it. When are they going to see that I'm really don't not worth it? Albeit with all the external accolades, awards, all the credits, all of the accolades, everything externally will refute that. But the imposter syndrome is how the person feels inside. When are they going to find out that I feel like a fraud? Not that they are a fraud. Now it's different if I'm posing as I don't know, a cop. If I'm taking out, I'm taking out a fake badge, and it's to fake that I'm literally an imposter. But the imposter syndrome means that they feel like a fraud, even though all the external degrees, whatever, promotions, positions, would refute that. So I recently, actually, within the last few weeks, months, came to realize, and I'm not. I mean, I don't consider myself. I feel like I'm 24. I'm not. But I feel like it. I feel it's like a spring chicken. And at the same time, the achiever's curse is that I need to continue to obtain another certification, another degree, another promotion in order to feel full. Because there's a moment where it's like, yeah, I got it. And then there's, oh wow, okay. And then I feel like an imposter. Like I didn't deserve that. Why? So then this is it's like a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. It's like it's an addiction. And like this is not a podcast on addiction, but actually it is, because my whole life I'm an addict to addiction. Literally, it doesn't matter what form it takes. I don't care if it's food, sex, gambling, drugs, shopping, money, whatever it is. It's all the same. So addiction to wanting to be seen, that external validation, that is my addiction. Totally 100%. So I'm thriving off this podcast because you dump it. Oh no, don't tell me you're dumping it. No, I want to be seen. And then no,
No, I'm trying to set you up to come back for a part two.
well, now you're feeding my ego because mom will like, yeah. So the addiction is it's funny. The addiction is I gotta be seen, and then I am, yeah, baby, and it's on. And then okay, and then like we get off the call here, and I'm like, no, it's me and my cat. What do I get? It's not really like that. It lasts for a moment, yeah, and then when am I going to be seen again? And the imposter, like, if I'm not, because there was a moment where I was all like, I'm going to be seen. Where are they? And in fact, I'm having a little aha. That's it. The thing about it is, I thought it was all imposter syndrome, and it's like even the last few days, I'm like, is it just that? Because I question myself on it, because I question my questions, which is sick and like weird, but it's not. Crazy people don't ask if they're crazy, and I can say that as a mental health practitioner. I can say that they don't know why they don't ask if they're crazy. So I ask him like, what's going on with why? Who hears you? That's an acronym. What's your why? Who hears you? I want to speak to those women, the men out there. They're new in even if they're not necessarily new in their career. It's like, how much do you want it? What is your passion? And I don't mean just a job or a career or a vocation. I mean your passion. What's your avocation? What would you do where you wouldn't get paid, like me right now? What would you do? I get up and I'm at my desk and I'm loving this and I'm putting people together. Why do I do that? For validation? Is it to be recognized? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about that. So going back, to what extent do I feel as if I show up in my life and am I seen? And if I am seen, when are they going to find out that it's vacant, that there's a vacancy behind the facade? That is a facade. So I need to do more, be more, am more, be more, do more in order to feel like I am more. And then I fill it up, because you fill up the tank, it's going to deplete. So it's a vicious cycle.
So how would you go about permanently or keeping it full longer than usual?
I love that. I love that you just reframed that. I can't do it permanently because it's like right now my whole gist is mental fitness. I've done the whole physical fitness. I was a trainer. I was a yoga instructor. I've done group instruction. I did figure competitions, ran marathons, blah blah blah. It's like it's going to the gym. Okay, we do physical reps, right? And we train our muscles for endurance and strength. Well, there's also, there's mental fitness. We have emotional intelligence. We have, which is EQ. We have IQ, intellect. And then there's PQ, which is positive intelligence. There's mental fitness. And essentially, it's the same thing. How long am I going to allow myself to sit in my saboteur and sabotage myself?